I'd like to call to order the Board of Education meeting for Monday, April 11th. If everyone would stand to recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let the record show we have all board members present with Tracy Rankin joining by phone. We do need an adoption of the agenda, including the supplemental personnel report, and please see in your green folder, we have an update of the agenda under the business services. Okay.
You made a motion.
You have a motion by Jared,
Second?
second by Tammy, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, Jeff, did you have a chance to look over the bills?
Yes. We write a lot of checks.
I wouldn't argue
And I would
that.
make a motion that we accept the bills for the month.
Okay. Motion by Jeff, second by Jamie, all in favor? Aye. 7-0. All right, now, everybody, get ready. We've got some presentations. This is fun for me. We have, first off, we're going to start with the Lady Red Demon and Red Demon Wrestling program. We have the Lady Red Demon Wrestling program won state this year, coached by Mr. Tate Lowe. This is only their third year of being a sanctioned sport, so that's very exciting. The Lady Demons had 7 state placers. Jessica Rivera placed 6th, Ashley Alonso 3rd, Ariana De La Rosa 3rd, Haley Ramos 2nd, Ashley Arroyo 2nd, Jolette Alvarez 4th, and that's the most in school's history. And then, do we want to do the?
Well, let's have the girls come up first. So we'll start with any of the lady wrestlers here today, Coach? Yep, let's come up here and be recognized. That was the whole purpose of doing this tonight. So if we can have everybody come forward, that's part of that.
It may take you down.
I'll give you $100 if somebody will take him down.
Congratulations, you guys. There we go.
I'll say this more than once tonight, but I want everybody to understand that we're very proud of your accomplishment.
Yes.
We wanted it to be recognized as an official board meeting because you represent us, and that means a lot to us. And so the best we can do to show that is to have you come to a school board meeting. I know it's nerve-wracking, you wonder what all these strange things are, but it's very important, and we appreciate it greatly. So continued success, and thank you for what you've done for us.
Yes, thank you.
We also have, for the Red Demon Wrestling, Damian Mendez and Luke Barker both took the championship for state wrestling as well. So I see Luke here. Okay, if you guys would come on up.
Yes,
yes.
They did,
Yes,
they did.
right. Well, if we started naming off everything these two have accomplished, we'd be here all night.
Well, state's awesome, but the national champion.
Congratulations, gentlemen.
Congratulations, guys.
We also have Coach Lowe. He's got his biggest cheerleaders here, I see. Do David and Timbray want to come up for this? Okay, we'll see. So Coach Lowe received the Kansas High School Girls Regional Coach of the Year. So we're very proud of him and all his coaching staff for their accomplishments this year.
Great programs don't come without great leaders. We appreciate the leadership. We recognize that tonight. Thank you.
All right, we're not done with wrestling yet, it looks like. We've got Dodge City Middle School Wrestling. We have Angel Gomez, was the middle school WAC champion. Riley Salcido, I apologize if I messed up that name, also middle school WAC champ. Jasmine Rojas, middle school WAC champ. Ureli Garcia, middle school WAC runner-up. And USA Wrestling Kansas 14 and under runner-up, and then also Guillermo Morales, USA Wrestling champion. So do we have? Okay, very good.
Good. Come forward, please. And their coaches.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, guys.
What I want to say for the junior highs are that we've never done this before, but we feel like it's very important, and obviously something is starting and something is going very well, and we want that continued success. So we appreciate the effort that's been made, and we recognize that tonight as well. Each board meeting is put together with an agenda for what we have time for. If we don't have time for kids, then why are we having board meetings? I mean, that's the whole idea. And so your success is important to us, and we want to recognize that. So we very much appreciate your efforts, and we want you to continue, and wish you the best as well. So thank you also.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Mr. Baker?
All right, last but not least, we have for Comanche Middle School Wrestling, Liliana Arroyo, her middle school WAC champ. She was also undefeated, it looks like. And she was USA Wrestling Kansas champion. And then Cruz Rios, also middle school WAC champ. So if you are here, if you'd come up. Oh, sure, okay. Well, congratulations, if you would extend that for us.
Yeah.
It's exciting to see the program doing as well as it is. Next up, we have Sarah Hoff. Sarah Hoff is a social studies teacher at Dodge City High School, and she was one of the 7 members of the 2022 class of Kansas Master Teachers. The awards are presented annually to selected teachers who demonstrate the attributes of exemplary professional educators. Emporia State established the Kansas Master Teacher Awards in 1954, and the ceremony was last weekend?
Last Wednesday.
Wednesday, yes.
Dr. Dirksen told me I had to give a speech.
Yes, please do.
Okay.
A presentation, so.
What?
Then we'll have a presentation
Okay,
of us.
that would be more than welcome. I thought tell you what I did last week at my speech. So, as a history teacher, I emphasize to my students that history is a story. The word has story in it. I start my classes each year by having students tell me their story. I'm later able to use what I learn about them to shape many of the things I talk about in my lessons. In the spirit of my belief in stories, I would like to share a story with you. There was a little girl with bright blonde hair, so blonde it was almost white, and she had bright blue eyes, just like her father, and she was the eldest child. She spent her early years in the same community and school her dad grew up in, so everyone knew him. She looked a great deal like her dad, and she heard it frequently. In fact, when she was really young, she was convinced that her middle name was her dad's, since she heard herself introduced as, "This is so-and-so, so-and-so's daughter." She had a happy childhood with only one real problem. Now, many young women at some point feel this problem. She was told quite frequently she was too bossy. When she was young, she was not sure what that meant, but apparently it was a bad thing to take charge. When she started school, all of her teachers were women, and they spent the day telling kids what to do. And from her perspective, they were respected and not bossy. Immediately, she decided she was going to be a teacher, and then no one could call her bossy, and she could tell people what to do all day long. As I'm sure you've guessed, that little girl was I. Obviously, blue is my not my natural color. Obviously, over the years, I grew to understand there was more to being teachy than being bossy. In high school and college, it became a desire to see that stereotype light bulb moment. And as I gained experience here in the district, it has become a desire to educate generations that can make connections between past and present, and to grow an appreciation for at least some point in history, politics, or current events. I'm honored to be recognized as a master teacher. My dream since first grade has been to teach, and I really hope I inspire other bossy girls to use their leadership skills. I wanted to thank Jackie Feist again for hiring me. It's been a great adventure this past 18 years. And John Hanson for nominating me, and all my colleagues at DCHS. This has been a wonderful 18 years in this district, working with so many wonderful people, and I hope to have many, many more. So thank you.
Congratulations. We hope you have many more as well.
I just want to add while we're getting the picture taken that I had the pleasure of attending the event, and I had never been to the Master Teacher Ceremony before, and it was very special. And this year we recognized the class of 2020 as well. Because of COVID, they were not able to have their ceremony, so we had two events that night, just one buffet. And Justin Heckey at Comanche Middle School was recognized at that event, so that was very nice. But only 7 are chosen each year across the state, so it is a big deal. And then, just by happen chance, I had the privilege of sitting by that father that was talked about.
I didn't get the best part of my speech, did I? Yeah. I said that I'm very proud that my dad came into that night. I'm very proud to be Sarah John.
And it was wonderful. And I just happened to be sitting by your father, and I grabbed and kissed him so he could wipe the tears from his eyes because it was emotional for him too. So it was very special. And the last thing I want to say about that is there's a program that they prepare. It's done very professionally, very nicely. And you look back, and the only school district that I could find that had more master teachers was Emporia, and I think that's a big deal. Besides that, but then Dove City has well represented our district over the years, and that's something to be very proud of. Very nice. Thank you. I think we're down to one last presentation.
One more. All right, next up we have Kathy Schultz. Kathy has earned the Platinum Level Award in the Professional Recognition Program, sponsored by Child Nutrition and Wellness with the Kansas State Department of Education. To earn that, she completed 250 hours of KSDE-sponsored training. So that's impressive all by itself.
So if you'll come forward, Kathy,
Yeah, she's getting one, I think.
I'll give you this later. So, Kathy, I noticed you didn't walk to the microphone for speech. I did receive a letter in the mail, and it was a congratulations from the State Department. And we're extremely proud of you and your achievement, the dedication that you've shown and the hours that you've attended, puts you above and beyond the level of most across the state. So with this, you received a very nice certificate. You received this letter, and then this medallion as well. So we're very proud of you. You have an outstanding food service department, and it's nice to be recognized. So thank you very much for what you do. Thank you.
Okay, I think we've got everybody presented now, so we'll move on. Next up, we have the Stuco reports. First off, we've got Dodge City High School with Felicity Campfield.
All right, good evening. So this week at the high school, well, let me step back. Last night, our student council actually went up to the high school to hide some Easter eggs around the school. And in those eggs, we put little stickers and little happy Easter messages just as something kind of fun for kids to find throughout the day and throughout the week, and just kind of as a little encouragement. We also have student council officer elections this week, so hopefully by the next meeting, I'll be able to tell you who will be in my spot next year. Tomorrow, we have the YMCA coming to talk during flex time about, their career opportunities, what they do for the community, and different things they have going on. We also had some professors from Wichita State coming to our school, and they were teaching in certain classes, kind of giving students a feel of what it would be like to be in a college class. This past weekend, we had not state, but regional solo and ensemble. And this Wednesday, we have state large group that will take place. And then many students from the band, orchestra, and choir will go on to compete at state at Washburn Rural High School in Topeka. We have prom on the 23rd. The announcements will start at 7 p.m. The band will also have their pop concert on May 14th. And then lastly, a couple weeks ago, March 28th, Kansas Teacher of the Year, Susan Stevenson, and the group of teachers actually came to Dodge City High School. And so I am a teacher cadet. And for those of you who don't know, the high school has a class called Teacher Cadet. And so I take this class, and what that class is, you spend the first quarter of that class learning about what it's like to be a teacher. You get special presentations from Dr. Dirksen, Mrs. Mendoza, and our teacher's Mr. Maple, great teacher. And then the second half, we actually get to go shadow a teacher. So, you kind of give Mr. Maple an idea of what grade you're looking at, what class you're looking at, if you're into high school or middle level. And so then every day you get to go to that teacher and you get a shadow and you get to be with those kids. And if you really enjoy it, you get to do the advanced teacher cadet program. And so I'm currently doing that. So every day I get to go to the middle school DCMS and help 8th graders with their math. And so I've really enjoyed that. So Mrs. Mendoza asked me and a few of the other teacher cadets to give the Kansas Teacher of the Year a tour. And so it was a really great experience being able to talk to these teachers. And I mean, these are the best teachers in the state, and it was just really inspiring. So, yeah. Are there any questions?
So does that mean you want to be a math teacher?
Yes, I'm actually going to go to Wichita State to be secondary education mathematics. So, I'm planning on it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Let's make sure we get her contact information before she graduates.
Mr. Check, you're on this? Okay.
All right, next up we have Tabitha Mahoney with Comanche Middle School.
Hello. My name is Tabitha, and I am a representative of Comanche Student Council. Our Student Council is working on elections for the upcoming school year. We will have elections at the end of this month and elect new officers. Student Council has sponsored a school-wide egg hunt to give students something to look forward to. We have established boxes in the library where students can share positive notes that we deliver during Impact. We need to come up with a more consistent schedule to deliver the notes. But most students have really enjoyed this idea. We have delivered over 100 notes. Our next big event will be a clothing drive to help struggling families and allow upcycling of uniforms. It was a huge success last year, especially for our incoming 6th graders, and we would like to continue serving our families. For the remainder of the year, we are discussing a possible dance, 8th grade celebration, and Spirit Week. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Tabitha. Good job. All right, and finally, we've got, next up, Evelyn Hernandez from Dodge City Middle School.
Good evening. I'm Evelyn Hernandez, the DCMS Stuco president. Today, I won't use much of your time this afternoon. We have kicked off the last sports season with girls and boys soccer, along with track. We will be having a fine arts night on April 29th, along with upcoming choir and band and orchestra concert in May. State testing is also underway. DCMS hopes to be finished by the end of May. Things seem to be going well with our student athletes as well. To keep it brief and quick this month and last, we will be having a hoodie design contest where incoming 6th, 7th, and 8th graders design a new hoodie for the school year of 2022 through 2023. The following quotes have been asked to be a part of the design: believe in growth, advocate for success, and pursue greatness. We have another round of Hope group coming up in April, where we will meet up with others in the district before the end of the year. Beautification Day is coming up as well. On Beautification Day, we will clean up our canvas area as a way to give back to our school and community. 6th grade orientation is also coming up soon. Incoming sixth graders will come to DCMS and have a tour and learn a little about DCMS for next year to help with the transition. This month, we have planned having the morning greeters back out as well. In addition to that, we have been doing our Stuco store, but this time, instead of selling our shirts, we have been selling decals, which are stickers, have our DCMS symbol, and somewhere on the sticker has a sport on it, so athletes could buy one. Even if not an athlete, there is also a DCMS one for sale. The decals were sponsored by PTO. Any questions?
You did a great job.
Thank you and have a great evening.
Thanks, Evelyn. All right, for the elementary report, we have Lynn Elementary.
It's a tall kid.
Yeah.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Education, Dr. Dirksen. My name is Amy Olivares. I'm currently the principal at Lynn Elementary and been there about 7 years. Lynn was built in 1995. They opened up after Lincoln closed. The majority of the staff and students from Lincoln then transferred to Lynn as a K-5 building. It was a 4-section school at one time, and with the modulars that were sitting on the grass that went to DCMS later. In the 26 years of operation, there have been 3 secretaries, 7 principals, and thousands of students that have walked through the door to become a Lynn Lion. During this month, elementary schools have performed several music programs for families and parents, participated in the McTeacher Night at McDonald's, watched the DCMS drill team perform, kicked off state assessments with PEP assemblies, and began testing. Ross hosted their annual mother-son game night with almost 100 boys attending, plus their moms or special guest. Hosted food drives for local food banks. Kindergarten registration is currently taking place. At Sul, Encarnacion Perez placed 64th out of 84 students at the Sunflower Spelling Bee held in Wichita. This is quite an accomplishment for a student that began as a newcomer. Of course, we all know it's a very busy time of year. Items coming up in the next few weeks. we have third grade field day, fast bridge screening, April 25th to May 6th, completion of the state testing, Mother's Day celebration and bingo night at Sunnyside, father-daughter dance at Ross, school carnival at Lynn, celebrating staff during Teacher Appreciation Week. Fifth grade's going to be touring the middle schools and doing instrument tryouts and lots of field trips. Any questions?
Very good.
Thank you.
For that update. All right, we're ready now for recognition of visitors. Persons may present ideas or concerns regarding USD 443 schools. No action will be taken by the board at this meeting. Personalities and behavior of employees are not to be presented during this period, but are to be reported to the employee's immediate supervisor. The president shall determine the amount of time to be spent for citizen participation. If you'd like to address the board, please approach the podium now. Seeing nobody, we'll jump ahead. Next up, we have the consent agenda, which includes the approval of personnel, including the supplemental personnel report, approval of minutes for the March 21st Board of Education meeting, approval of Learning A to Z RAS Kids subscription renewal for 2022-2023, approval of Bright Beginnings Policy Council minutes for January 18th, as well as February 15th, approval of donation from Douglas and Carla Malia for Ross Elementary Adaptive Playground, approval of donation from Downey Auto Parts for Ross's Adaptive Playground, approval of donation from Great American Investors, also for Ross Adaptive Playground, approval of donation from Milk Tea House for Ross Adaptive Playground, approval of the 2021-2022 classified miscellaneous assignments pay adjustment, approval of telemetry installation agreement with Black Hills Energy, approval of the 2022 Dodge City High School graduation ceremony at United Wireless Arena facility use agreement. Any questions? I will say, first off, I was able to be at Ross when the principals got to kiss the pig, so that was quite entertaining. The first time through, the pigs really squealed and kind of had everybody alarmed, but they kind of changed the way they did it the second time, so there was no squealing there, so that was good. Second of all, I would like to note that I would like to see, and I've already talked to Mr. Scheck and Dr. Dirksen about this, but on the classified assignments, how we can get more of a, I think we're struggling with having paras leave the district because they can make more money at other jobs. So I'd like to see what we can do in that area, but I'm glad to see that we're getting other jobs brought up.
The original reason we made this change is because we had a category of employees that were in a different segment. And so literally greeters were getting paid more than translators, and we identified that as not being fair. Mm-hmm. And it was just a matter of something that we missed in the change, and we tried to correct it and didn't get it corrected. But then through discussion, and your point is well taken, but through discussion, we are competing now with a lot of different agencies across town, and even frontline food service jobs are paying more than we're paying paras, and they're 12-month jobs, not 9-month jobs. So we are having to look at ways to be more competitive, and that has been brought up, and we will definitely research that.
I know. I mean, where I work, it's a challenge as well to find those people that can work, and I think money is a good way to get them in the door anyway.
Point taken.
We've got a motion by Tammy and a second by Jeff. All in favor? Aye. 7-0. Okay, we're ready now for new business. First off, we've got curriculum and instruction, and we've got our librarians here to talk to us.
Good evening, Board of Education, Dr. Dirksen. I have an opportunity right now. I'm going to have These ladies introduce themselves, say who they are, where they work, and how long they've been in the district. But what you're going to hear this evening will be a presentation as far as our libraries and how they serve our students. And if you think about one of the busiest locations in a school, just stop by any one of those libraries and you'll see a lot of structured activities as well as kids coming in and out, staff coming in and out. So they do a tremendous job, and I wanted them to have an opportunity to share with you what they do.
Good evening. I'm Michelle Reed. I'm the high school librarian, and I've been in the district 24 years.
I'm Donnell Priest, and I'm at the Dodge City Middle School. I've been a librarian for 4 years, but I've been in the district for 19.
My name is Chelsea Nolan Santee. I'm at Lynn Elementary, and I've been a librarian in the district for 5 years.
My name is Allison Milia. I'm at Sewell Elementary. I'm kind of a complicated person. I'm second year librarian, 5 years in the district, and this is my 21st year of teaching. The video, what is it called? Video production class. The teacher is Mrs. Batman, and the student who made it is a senior named Michaela Meek. She did such a good job.
By having the library, it's very beneficial for the kids because this is where their love for reading really starts.
My favorite part of the library is that there's a ton of adventures and books and so many things to explore.
Finding new books that you weren't really looking for, but then reading them and really liking them.
I get to work with all the kids in the building, and I appreciate that because I get to know all the kids a little bit. I love it when they come to me, they're excited about a book that they've read and they want to talk about it.
I can help guide them in what they're reading and increase their reading strategies and capabilities.
So the importance of the library is, one thing is Miss Weil always reaches out to us to ask us teachers what we're learning about in our classroom, and then she incorporates that into her library.
I love to read, and I love the cool books and everything here that they have.
We get to read books because books are fun.
My favorite thing about the library is how organized it is. It's genreified and everything has its specific bookshelf and everything, and we have signs everywhere. I can find any book that I really want to read.
My favorite part of the library is actually the time of day. Every morning we have between 50 and 70 kids who come in here and just hang out. They bring their breakfast in, they talk to their friends, they come and get coffee. It's just great. The library's packed and it's wonderful. What I think is important to say is that the library is one of the few places in the school that serves every single person in the building. We have materials for students, of course. We have materials for the teachers. We help teachers with curriculum. I help teachers who are getting their masters find research. I do all kinds of things.
The librarians, because they're very helpful and they help you find any book you would like.
My favorite part is probably the books because there's so many genres and you can just read a lot that you had never read before.
I come in here to study for my college class. I used to just in a regular class, but I get distracted easily. I start talking to people, so being in the library helps a lot.
It feels good, and there's a whole bunch of diversity in books for all the other people that are here. Like, everyone will find something they like, no matter what.
So I'm just going to go. And where am I pointing this? Just up here? Okay. All right, so like we said in the video, school librarians, do I need to wait? That would be wonderful.
The school librarians serve the entire school building, the teachers, students, administrators, support staff. We're literally there for everyone in the building. We have 14 campuses, you probably know. We have 11 librarians, 8 at the elementaries, 2 at the middle school, and 1 high school. Our combined service in libraries is 77 years. Combined years in the district is 164, and combined years of teaching is 210. I was a little surprised by those numbers, but they're pretty good. Our library statistics, and this was as of last Monday, we've checked out 142,353 books. We've collectively taught 5,661 classes, set up over 1,300 digital ebook and audiobook accounts, and that's mostly at the high school, and we've given an innumerable number of book talks, formal book talks with classes or one-on-one or with small groups. Studies conducted over the last 2 decades consistently show that students who attend schools staffed with endorsed school librarians, one, they score better on standardized reading tests, even when controlled for student socioeconomic status, and they score better on those tests even when there were overall staff declines in a school. So I feel like that speaks to just how much we can help. And we just compiled a huge list of some of the different things we do in our buildings all the time. Of course, we help children love learning. We build library collections to support curriculum and encourage reading for pleasure. We collaborate with teachers on curriculum instruction. We plan activities to help reading fun for students. We teach research and information literacy skills to students. We run book fairs, administer KELPA and state assessments. We sponsor school spelling bees, assist with Title I nights. We plan author visits, both in person and on Zoom. Provide lots of tech assistance in the buildings. We serve on building and district level committees, assist counselors with enrollment. We read to students during lunch. We host monthly reading challenges. We host the TOC student athletes who come in from these different schools to read to the students. We sponsor different school clubs. We provide a place for high school students to take online classes, and honestly, that happened since COVID, but I think that's fantastic that kids can do that. We offer printing for students, and we give all the students a comfortable and welcoming place to hang out before school and during lunch. We give students a place to be creative. I'm just going to brag on the high school. All the murals in the high school library are student created, so if you get up to the high school, come up and take a look, because some of them are, really all of them are amazing, but some are really amazing. We also promote educational and personal growth. We offer a safe space for students to explore a variety of interests and topics. We support social-emotional learning through the library materials that we choose. We apply for donations and grants to help fund library materials and activities, and there's more, but that's where we stopped. So, does anyone have any questions for any of us?
Thank you for all you do.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Wow.
Very nice.
I told them they could stay, but I think they have other things they want to do, maybe.
It appears.
They're going.
Really surprising.
110 years makes them smart, and the combined average years up. I think I'm up next. Okay, what I want to present to you is an informational item. It's the 2022-23 Professional Development Plan. And before I go over that piece, just in general high points, I want to also make you aware that we have started a Professional Development Steering Committee. Kelly Clark is the point person on that right now. In fact, they met today. She has them in different groups based on the levels within our district. So we have staff coming in. We conducted a needs survey across the district as far as professional development, both classified and certified. And the point of this is start to look at 2 things. 1, what are our staff saying that they need? And 2, that alignment to our district strategic plan, which is an upcoming agenda item that we'll go over here this evening. So part of that Professional Development Steering Committee is going to be very important from a curriculum and instruction standpoint, as well as behavior and social and emotional, is to be able to see where is our staff and what are the needs as we start to allocate our resources, both in time and people and money next year into that professional development that they're targeted. And so we also have made a shift starting this year. We've been moving into this the last 3 years. But as we move forward, if you look at what research says about quality professional development, it really is centered around instruction, curriculum and instruction. How do we take that training and drive that into practice, whether that be our classified staff or our certified? It's really giving our teachers time to dig into the technical aspects, but then most importantly is that application and that peer reflection. And so everything we do, you will see embedded in there, those 3 key components. So we have a very focused plan. I'm confident that the steering committee and the work that they do is going to make sure that as a district it's collaborative, but it's also targeted where we need it to be. Our professional development also is differentiated. So it's hard when you have a staff this big and we roll out a topic, but we have the ability to support that in the buildings through their professional learning communities, through our instructional coaches, through the building principal, through their mentors if they're new teachers. So there's a lot of wraparound support when it comes to PD. So I know you've heard in prior meetings, and I know Mr. Scheck will talk about it. There's 2 components. 1, we got to hire quality, but 2, we got to train them up and keep them here. That's part of that retention. And so our professional development steering committee also is going to play an integral role in the state's requirement for the Professional Development Council. So we're required by law to develop a plan, and the members of the PDC have specific roles and have to attend training. And so we're going to really tighten our PDC around this professional development work of the steering committee and directly link that into the strategic goals of the district. So hope what you take from this is that you'll see that it is very collaborative, it's very robust. We're going to be looking at plans that are multi-year and that will align directly with our district plans, our goals. So and I won't go through all of it because I know you've had a chance to look at your packet, but some of the items that you will see, and I want to delineate some of the differences in the PD opportunities. So up front, you'll see a lot of new teacher training. So our new teachers come in before all of our returning teachers. But throughout the year, you'll see some touch points for new teachers. So we've had that. It's been here ever since I've been here, and quite a few years prior to that. We work with the building principal and the coach and their mentors to work with new teachers so that there's multiple touch points. It's not just all that sanctioned hazing up front or that induction program, but that we have it throughout the year. You'll also see in there, if it says district professional development, that's what's led out of this building. So it could be behavior, social, and emotional. It could be classified staff, PD, specific to their trades or their skills. And then there's also obviously the academic component. So the district we're designing that topic and we're presenting it. So we're either presenting it in-house or we'll have outside consultants come in. If it says building design, that's up to the building principals and their team, their building leadership team, to identify those topics. And what we do as administrators is we look through the whole year. So we want to make sure that our PD is appropriate in the timing and the scope and sequence of when it needs to occur. So there's a lot of purpose put into that. Just as in anything else, there's never enough time. And so what we do is we try to maximize and we prioritize what we need during these touch points, and we try to make sure that they occur during certain times of the year where it's most appropriate. So a lot of the professional development, I will tell you, occurs in the professional learning communities. So when the teachers have time to meet, either by their department or by their grade level at the buildings, that's when they really get to dig in and do the hands-on, where they apply that technical knowledge that they got either through formal training or through professional development. And that's when they get to share best practice with each other and then grow as a group. And so that collective lift is what we get out of our PLCs. And so those have been very powerful. And it's been a joy to go into those and watch the change, the depth, the sophistication of how our teachers are doing their trade, but how they talk, the alignment across the district. It's been truly amazing to see how much has occurred in the last 3.5, almost 4 years. The time that I've been here, that's all I can attest to. So our professional development plan, you'll notice some of the dates aren't listed as far as the actual topics. That's what the steering committee is going to finalize. So we will have this completed and any of the missing areas filled in before the end of the year so that staff knows ahead of time what's coming next year. So we're very excited about this plan, and I feel good about all the work that's gone in from staff members from the district level to our teachers, to our building principals, our coaches. This is an all hands on deck. What questions might you have about our professional development plan or focus?
Ryan, Mike.
I did. So, yeah, so 2 years ago, through the board and DCNEA, we added in some additional days to the contract, and we put that into we did PD, and we front-loaded it due to COVID. So it was part of the agreement saying, let's put it up front so people have time to prepare for a different year with remote learning and those types of things. What we've done this coming year, 22-23, is some of those days are going into student contact. So it'd actually be a little bit less than what we had last year. It was a long way to go to get to answer your question, but it varies depending on kind of what we negotiate.
You know, one thing, first thing I heard when I board training was the key to education is a trained, motivated teacher standing in front of a group of kids. And I appreciate the work that's gone into this. The motivation part, you know, concerns me. You know, you can have classes all the time, but, you know, a lot of teachers, and I can't say a lot, but a few have spoken to me about just being frazzled and worn out, and that we've heard reports of that across the country and stuff. Student behavior has not really rebounded to where we would like it after COVID, and this is not a question. It's just my heart, I guess, that we do everything within our power to keep that motivation part of it as strong as a professional development, because and that's the hard part, because that you have to get in somebody's heart and his soul. But I want our teachers to have great career success, and it speaks that they are, because we have 207 something whatever years of experience in the librarians, and we have that across the district. But I never want us to lose sight of the human side of our staff.
Yeah, you make a very good point. So we have a managing change kind of diagram that we use, and so we use that if we see certain emotions. So if there's anxiety or confusion, we can kind of backtrack and say, well, is it because we haven't clearly articulated what we're doing or why we're doing it or how we're doing it, and those types of things. And so each person is unique. Each person's going to have an emotional response. It's our job to look at those. Because we're invested in people, whether they're little people or big people.
Right.
And so that's all part of what we do. I was talking with Sarah Hoff, and she goes, you know, I feel like I'm probably more tired this year than I've been the last couple of years. She goes, but it's a good tired. She goes, but I've served on a district 612 social studies committee. She had the master teacher. So there's a lot of these other things she's doing. And I know our teachers are very, very loaded, but I have seen, even with that, people are, across the board are bought into where we're going. I think it's hard sometimes every day if it's not clear and you get tired and stuff happens, and that's part of being a teacher. But I witnessed I'm secondhand, I was told about Brandon Miller working with one of our teachers in the district. And this is a teacher who'd been here a long time, and reached out, and he went and did a co-teaching model with her. And the word that stuck with me was fun. She said, this was fun. And I think that's part of it. That's the fun part, when you get those kids in your classroom and you're making a difference and you can move them and you see it. And that discipline decreases because they're engaged and they're focused. So to your point, we always will continue to monitor that, because, as I said earlier, it's not just attraction, it's retention. So yeah, all those things are important.
Is that a part of something that can be done with the building? Like when they get to plan their day, if they kind of notice that, then they can incorporate things like that on those days?
Like,
Like if they're feeling like what, to address what Jeff said.
Mhm.
So when the building administrator is in charge of the day and planning that, that's what I'm saying. Can that be a part of that?
Yeah, so we do have a continuous feedback loop. Probably ought to bring it back just as just a refresher. But there are opportunities so that teacher can either go, visit directly with their principal or through that professional learning community setting. And the other thing we're talking about is solution focused. I know sometimes when I feel like the weight of the world's on me and it's easy for me to kind of push back and blame others and those types of things, that never really gets me personally anywhere. What I have to do is set up a plan. What can I control? What can I control? And start right there with that first step. And trust me, as a parent, I've had that speech many times with my kids over the last several years and probably will continue. So it's looking at how do you take control of what you can instead of, because that mindset piece is huge. It's still going to be work, but if it's focused work and there's other people there to help support and help them, which is what we do with professional development, it makes it manageable.
I see that one of the things involved with PD, so this may be so the rest of these days that's mandatory.
Yeah. So with that, I will say we have more people signed up for this June voluntary PD than we had last year. Last year we had 300. So we're over, Brandon, do you know how many we have? 340. Think about that. 340 people are going to come to training, half day, some of them are full day for the month of June. That's amazing to me. And so we're seeing more people take advantage because, honestly, there's only so much we can do within the day and the contract day. So the voluntary piece is going to be new next year. If you remember a few years ago, we had a flex day where we traded. This one's going to be those that choose to come in on the day that we have off. So that'd be the day after parent-teacher conferences. We will pay them per the negotiated agreement. To me, that's money well spent. And then provide focused PD based on their needs.
Okay, I might have a silly question too, but on a professional development day, who decides what topic is going to be discussed that day? Or do teachers have any say in what, do we give out any kind of survey? What are they wanting help with?
Yeah. So there is a survey that was, I think it closed a week ago, went out to everybody in the district. That's what the steering committee is going over right now. And so we're looking at that. Also, at the end of each professional development, we do an exit survey to have them give feedback, but also what would they like to see more of and what they'd like to see less of. So we look at those things and really look at that feedback to make any tweaks that we need to. So there's constant feedback from the teachers. Principals obviously work with their building on those building days. And so, it is something that we do collect a ton more individualized direction.
Okay. My other question too is, or it kind of goes off of what Jeff said. I've had several reach out to me on the disciplinary and that how kids have changed or teachers have, whatever it is, have changed since the COVID deal, and the discipline has become a big issue inside of the schools. And it hasn't been just from one school I've heard it from. And they're saying they're getting it from the top more, I would say your level, coming down. Is there a different structure that I'm not aware of, I guess, that's going on inside of it? I guess on a discipline, is there some kind of chart you guys follow? Or, I guess I don't know. So I don't really know how to answer that back for people.
Okay.
So kind of to go off of him.
If they ever have any questions, send them to my way or to Matt or Tammy. And then we'll be able to help give them any feedback or answer those things. So that'd be first. Second, I know this year with our behavior, social, and emotional, Matt and Tammy are the point on that. We have really infused a lot more training in the behavior side of it. Also with the rollout of the new CARES team, that's been an additional support. And so we're using research-based strategies. We also added in the SABRES, which is part of FastBridge that measures behavior. So our kids will take that and we'll be able to get, and our teachers provide feedback too. And we'll be able to get feedback to say specifically what is it we need to work on. What are our kids' needs are right now, so we could tailor a lot of that professional development. And so I don't know if I answered your question, but there's just like with the academic component, there's feedback that we collect from staff to determine those topics. And behavior has and is ever evolving situation. and we do the best that we can to try to be ahead of that. And so I think as we work with our teachers, it's kind of that chicken egg. So how do you get to the instruction part if you don't have the behavior part in control or managed? And I think it's vice versa. I do think they both need to go hand in hand. So as our teachers plan a lesson instructionally, they need to look at those EL strategies. They also need to look at the behavior strategies, because part of behavior is through trial and error. And if you're going to modify a behavior, there's got to be rewards and there has to be some encouragement. And so it has to be taught. And so I think as we help our teachers find those strategies to reinforce those good behaviors and redirect the ones that are undesirable, that's all part of the lesson, and teaching our staff to do that as well. Okay. Okay, we can definitely get you that information at a future board meeting.
You know, I just hope we're creating environments in our buildings where if a teacher's having problems with behavior, that they feel free and not like a failure, you know, to go to their administrators and to go, you know, and to get help. Because the thing that I've heard the most is there's no consequences for poor behavior. That if I had to say one thing I've heard, it's that there seems to be no consequences for bad behavior. And I just, you know, the principals in the room, just we create that environment where a teacher feels they can come and say, I'm struggling with this, and this, and I need help.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know,
I know that's what you all, I mean, I know that's the goal.
Yeah.
But
I'm a little out of my deep end. I can relay, but Matt and Tammy could jump in if they want me to. But I know you're right. So we have created majors, minors, work through teachers, which is which and which one, and how do you handle each one of those? So if it's a minor offense versus a major offense. And I know that the principals, it's tough because anytime you deal with discipline, there's so many other factors. And I remember as a principal, when I would get a kid sent to me from a teacher, it was always difficult because I did not have the lead up. I might have an office referral, I might have whatever occurred, but I didn't have that. Now I have a kid in my office that's in an elevated state. And that conversation one-on-one that I'd have with that, and I know our principals do that now, is going to be trying to figure out what's the prior history, what are the factors and circumstances, everything from what might have happened at home to did something happen today to is it academic, all those things. And then the principal has to make that decision, and they don't do it in a vacuum. And sometimes teachers don't always see what goes on. I know that there is communication that goes back and forth. Sometimes, and I'm not saying always, or even in this case that you mentioned, sometimes it might not be the discipline the teacher wanted, and then therefore they have a different viewpoint on the outcome. And so all these things have to occur through communication. Teachers should never, ever feel like they can't go talk because it's a partner. It's a partnership between that teacher or all those adults, those parents, and that administrator to help focus on teaching kids positive behaviors.
I just want to say something, and I know it's probably not going to be the most popular thing, but I know we want to go and talk about what happened at home and all of this stuff, but are we setting our kids up for failure? Because when a police officer snatches him up, they're not going to say, oh, honey, what happened with your wife last night? Oh, what happened? I mean, I guess that's me, is I feel like that's a lot of what's going on that is leading teachers to a lot of frustration that, you know, yes, but some kid might not have that issue at home, but they would get in trouble for that versus someone that did. I don't know. I think we're setting up a little bit of a, when they get out, what are we setting them up for? I mean, I agree there has to be some leniency. We know everyone doesn't have a great childhood. We understand that, but I feel like that's where a lot of teachers are frustrated right now. Because like I said, I've had 3 from different schools reach out with the same issue right now, that teachers are very frustrated but the admins, when I talk to them, their hands are tied. So I guess I'm like, I would like to know a little bit more of what's going on, because in the years I've sat on there, I've never had anybody come and talk to me about discipline being a problem until this year. So I'm sure COVID's had a lot to do with it too, so.
Yeah, and please understand, I'm not trying to dismiss that some teachers are feeling that. I would say that their hands are, principals' hands are never tied, and there are district administrators, Matt or Tammy, that can help work with them on that situation, or whichever comes up. There are some things where they are and some things they're not. Mandated reporting for child in need of care or truancy issues, those things are non-negotiable. They're the law. We have to abide by them. To your analogy, yes, it's hard to say. Our job is to prepare our students for to be successful citizens and educated citizens out in the world, out in Dodge or the United States. Obviously, what we want to do is we want to correct those behaviors the second they happen at the point of contact, so we don't have police officers that are arresting people for potential violations of crime. So yeah, that's always that balance. You know, I've been in the game 30 years, and each one of those 30 years, I hear this, and so, but I also hear great things, and it's always going to be that piece where we have to realize that the school may be more of an extension for that social equalization, but also how do we find other partners if it's not the parent? How do we find other resources in the community? Because there's more and more resources we can bring to bear. So I will tell you what, I will obviously visit with Dr. Dirksen, and then we'll see about bringing the behavior component at a future board meeting if that's what you're requesting.
Good.
Okay, or now.
No, I was just going to say, just feel free to reach out anytime. We are trying to build systems and structures that support all students, you know, throughout any classroom, and it is a challenge at times. Some of those more extreme behaviors at times can be very extreme, very challenging for teachers, and very frustrating. So feel free to have them come visit with us, because we're always up for solutions, suggestions, but we do want to try to make sure we build a structure in place where all teachers can be successful with all kids. So.
Thanks, Matt.
I'll end on this if there aren't any more questions. The professional development plan, once we have the actual details ironed out, we will get that to you. I'll probably do it in a week in review, so you can see it. But this was an informational item. I do appreciate everything everybody is saying, and the door is open. There's two-way communication. Anytime you hear something, please send them. I might look mean, but I'm not a mean guy. So I'm more than happy to visit with somebody, and I do want to hear what they have to say. So. I think I'm up next. Okay, this one is an action item. You know, at the beginning of this meeting, I would just like to say success breeds success. I mean, when you stop to think about the young men and women that came here and had earned either WAC titles or state championships or championships as a team or the coach of the year or national champion, they did that because they set a goal. That goal was clear. So when they set that goal, then they started to say, how do I achieve that goal? And they set action steps that built upon each other to get there. But that goal never changed. It was to be that national champion. It was to be that WAC champion. It was to be master teacher. It was to put in 250 hours of your own time in professional development so that you're more than good, but great at your job. Those pieces and that commitment, all these successes you're seeing are because of clear vision and clear plans. And so I think I've seen a huge uptick since I've been here of the number of successes that keep happening. It's also attitudinal. If we believe we can do it, we can do it. And we can set that bar high, and anything we get close to, it's still going to move that needle. So our district strategic action plan is taking a different turn. The first 4 years, it was very foundational, which you saw the old goal. It was structures. We needed to make sure that as a system, that there were clear processes and procedures across the board that could be repeated. So we needed that consistency, whether that be in our instruction, our curriculum, our professional development. You look at all of it, there are pieces that I don't care where you are, which building, you're going to know. If we talk about continuous feedback loop or MTSS or PLC, people are going to know what that means. And so we shifted from foundational. Now we wanted that foundation of our house built solid, and it's solid. Now we still have room to grow, but we wanted that in place. Now we're moving to outcomes. And so tonight what Diana Mendoza and I will present to you are academic components. So if you remember, there's the face of Dodge City. There's the financial, academic, climate, and employee. Tonight, we're going to ask for approval for these goals. Now, this is the district goal. And so we also have tied, before I get into these things, we have linked the district goal to the building goals, also our professional development. And so when our buildings right now, they're going through their data to say, did we meet or exceed or fall short of our goals for this current school year? Why or why not? So they're looking at all sorts of data points. preferably multiple data points so we could see and verify that data that is accurate. So they're going to look at that growth measure. Then they're also going to start shifting into saying, what will be our building goals next year to help ensure that the district meets its academic goals? So the buildings will set up their own goals, their objectives, and their action steps to get there. Just like we saw in those young men and women earlier. We've got our goal, now we got to set our steps. This is a multi-year goal, as you can see. And so what we did is I set the academic goal for math and literacy. Now, we had math and literacy in the previous strategic plan, but if you remember, literacy was pretty heavy with link, and that was foundational. So now we're shifting to student outcomes. We're using the CAP, which is the state assessment, as the summative measure. It's what all schools all schools administer. It's a normative measure against all kids in the state. It's also aligned to national standards. And so we get a good measure about Kansas students or Dodge City graduates or Dodge City kids grades 3 through 10 who take an assessment. We can see kind of where they stack up, but we can also see their growth year to year. What we're looking at here is a measurement of the system. So this isn't taking the same kids and measure them. You could look at the kids in this coming spring in 3rd grade and measure them to 4th grade next year. So we can look at longitudinal data, but we're also looking really as a system. How is our 3rd grade doing year in and year out? So what I did, we looked at research behind MTSS, and we said in a normal distribution of a population of a school, now define normal, but in a normal distribution, about 80% of our students should be at grade level. That's our tier 1. That's minimum, 80%. So we have shared before that we are below that level. And so we have designed all of our structures to focus on that and that improvement over time. And it's going to take time. As we keep telling our staff, yeah. Well, you can see here on this chart, right now for 21, 22, spring of 21, 20% of our 3rd graders were at PLD, which is performance level descriptor 3 or 4. There's 4 levels. That would be grade level. There are some, though, I think in performance level 2, where that cut score is, would be seen as the bottom of grade level. So what we did is if we're going to get from 80%, from 20% in last spring's state assessment to 80% in, what year is that, 26? Yeah, 27, spring of 27. What I did is I took each grade levels last year's and I just subtracted it from 80 and divided it by the 5. And that's what I came up on targeted benchmark growth for each year. So if you'll see here, 3rd grade, their benchmark for 22 is 32%. So that'd be a 12% increase. Now, not all schools are like that. Some might be higher than 20, others might be lower, but the end goal is going to be the same, is to get to that 80%. So that gives you kind of an idea on how that was set up. Now, what happens if a school doesn't make it? Well, what we're going to ask them to do is go in and dig into their data, not just CAP. And I'm going to say this up front. It is dangerous and probably irresponsible to only look at one data set. As a district and as a state, the state assessment is an important measure. We have to give it. It's part of what we do. But underneath that, under those layers, what the buildings will be looking at will be their FastBridge data. They're going to be looking at their summative data within the programs that we purchased, that you approved. They're going to be looking at their own formative data that teachers set up that's aligned to standards. So there's going to be multiple points that they're checking with kids. In fact, we progress monitor kids every 10 days. So there'll be instruction at 9 days based on data to target those skill developments, enrichment, and remediation. Then we're going to screen again so that we know how to adjust our instruction. So our buildings, I'm telling the principal, don't worry about the state assessment data. You worry about the data in your building with the points that you have, and the state or the district data will follow suit. It will rise because when you're doing these things, that outcome will occur. So I don't want them to worry about that. I want them to really focus on developing those plans and take those chunks that they can control within their buildings. So you can see kind of in math and reading what we have here as far as our benchmarks, and we'll review that each year from a district level. We'll dig into all those different data points. I'll show you another one in the next agenda item. But I'll look at those and say, where are we leading, where are we lagging? So I know how to respond. And I want to do that as fast as I can because any time delay only hurts. So, Diana, do you want to, there she is right there, waiting for me to breathe.
Good evening. So I just kind of wanted to talk specifically about our academic goal for our English learners. I know I have been before you many times talking to you about the number of English learners we have in the district and the professional development that we are trying to provide for teachers to kind of scale them up to be, to help support them as they instruct these diverse learners that we have. So we, again, like Dr. Springston said, looking at one data point is not what we do, but we centered the goal around KELPA, which is the Kansas English Language Proficiency Assessment that students take every year. We'll focus on that as our goal, but we'll also be looking at their FastBridge data and their CAP assessments as well. And we'll follow students from year to year. But as you guys know, we have a very large immigrant population, so it's not feasible to say that in 5 years, 60% of our kids would be proficient. 60% of our English learners would score proficient because they change so much, and we have some students coming in and out. And we know that research tells us that it takes 5 to 7 years of strong academic instruction to acquire a second language. So we currently have over 400 immigrant students in our district, and it's going to take 4 to 5 years to get those students to where they have that kind of basic communication. Some, depending on their foundation and their native language, will acquire the academic, but some might take longer just depending on their journey. But just to kind of review those numbers a little bit, in 2019, we had about 3,000 English learners, and 8% scored proficient overall on the KELPA. The KELPA is actually broken up into 4 different domains, so they get an assessment in speaking, listening, reading, and writing, but then there's an overall score depending on how they score on those 4 different domains. So in 2019, we had 8% score proficient. In 2020, we had about 12% score proficient, and then last year we had about 10% score proficient. So again, the numbers of English learners vary from year to year. So this year we have about 3,017 English learners currently. Tomorrow that could change. It may have changed since I came up with those numbers. So looking at the goal, we kind of wanted to just focus on a set % of students that will exit every year. If we keep the goal the way that it is here, we are looking at exiting 450 students out of the English English for Speakers of Second Languages program. So again, the population is very transient. They come in and out. It takes longer to acquire those languages or to acquire the English language. And in addition, since I wrote this, we are now up to 30 different countries represented by our immigrant students and 21 languages. So again, it changes almost every time I speak to you. So what questions do you have for me, or what can I clarify?
It's a little different. How can the community help? I've got, and let me tell you what I'm thinking about. I've got 3 Hispanic churches under my purview with people in them that are desperate to help the Hispanic community. How can the community, what can we do? I mean, I know you can't pop off 4 things today, but I want you to think about it. And because I have, know people that are desperate to help these young people.
So actually, I can give you some examples of some things that we're doing. So currently, I have an engagement coordinator who has been working very closely with the Exito programs at the middle school and the high school, and we have one at Lynn and one at Beeson as well. We don't have that program in every school currently or every elementary just because it was difficult to find staffing for that program. But she has been working with the city and the community to kind of get those kids into different communities, bringing speakers in to talk to them. They've been doing a lot of STEAM activities within the community to kind of start to build those relationships with community members so that we can start to work towards some of those things that you mentioned. I had another thought and also with our migrant students, we have many migrant children under 3 or even 3 and 4-year-olds that are not in Bright Beginnings. For various reasons, they do not attend preschool. So we actually go out and we do an ASQ with those students as well, and it's the screener that we give to preschool children or children coming into kindergarten to see where they are at developmentally, not just fine motor type things, but also social and emotional development. And depending on, we provide a report to the parents and kind of show them where they scored in the different areas. And then depending on the needs that the students have, we provide them with the resources and kind of guide them where to go to find some of those things that their child might need in order to be ready for kindergarten. So those are a couple of things that we've been doing this year, and we hope to add more to that.
Well, yeah, that's terrific. But, we have, I think there are a lot of people that would like to get involved in any way that we can. Create a fun night where the kids, I don't know, you guys are the pros, you come up with it and let us, maybe fund it or create it, with your ideas, because
Absolutely.
we have strong Hispanic churches in town.
And we did talk about one of the preachers at one of the Hispanic churches in town. He actually speaks a Guatemalan dialect.
Joel.
Yes. So we are going to communicate with him and see if he might even help us with enrollment. But we're starting to make those those partnerships and starting to build those relationships. So.
Awesome. Very good.
So maybe it'd be a great thing just to be able to unify and reach out to the Hispanic churches and you to give a presentation.
Absolutely.
And kind of talk about what's, like you've done with us, and help them to kind of see what the need is, so they maybe would be able to brainstorm and come up with different things.
Okay, absolutely.
Meet with them tomorrow.
Anything else that I can clarify or share?
No, thank you. That's good.
Thank you.
This was a action item request, so I'm seeking board approval of the academic goals for the district's strategic action plan to be approved as presented.
We've got a motion by Ryan and a second by Jamie. All in favor?
Aye.
7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The last item, is everybody awake behind me? Okay, I don't have eyes in the back of my head. This item is an informational item. I want to, I'm going to have Brandon Miller come up as well. I would like to go over briefly the spring 2022 inclusive MTSS implementation scale data. So we call it the IMIS because the rest is just too long. This is our 3rd year for administering it. It's the 2nd year to administer the full scale. So why is this important and what does this data give us? So you hear a lot about data points and we're very data rich, but we also want to be action rich. And so as we look at this data, I love this from a perspective of saying, what's the perception coming from the buildings, both classified, certified, and administrators in these particular categories, which if you look on page 121 of your packet, you'll see what those categories are. So you'll see a snapshot that compares the district aggregate. So it's anybody and everybody that took this survey, and you can see the end value down at the bottom. We had quite a bit more take it this year because it is embedded and we do use it. Therefore, people find value in the survey. And so this snapshot showing spring of 21 to spring of 22. Now, some of the things as you look at this data, reading is our 2nd year. And so I know I put in your packet the actual item by item analysis of this spring. And when you look at it, you can kind of see there's more green. Green is better. And so you'll see there's more green in the reading than there is in math and maybe BSOL. It's not too far off, but it's definitely across the board progressed. Well, it should. This is our 2nd year. And it's still, heavy lifting to learn it and those types of things and provide the professional development, but it was our 2nd year, so it's becoming more commonplace for our staff, whereas our math and our behavior, social, and emotional are in their 1st year. And so when I look at this data overall, and I'm not going to go through each one line by line, I'll take any questions that you have, but we're still in the data assumption process, so we're going to dig into each of these. and try to figure out, okay, can I verify or nullify that assumption? I might think, well, this went up because of this. Well, I don't want to make any false assumption. I would need to go and look at it. So the reading and the math and the behavior, you can see, I mean, they all progress. There's not a one in there that actually went down, even in the two that I just talked about being the first year. So it started, and then we took it in the spring. So we even saw growth year one, which we would expect. The empowering culture and the family engagement, those two are critical because that's looking at those structures when I talk about PLCs and the building leadership team, which we call BLT, the district leadership team. So what is that continuous feedback loop? How can information go from a teacher all the way through the system to their building PLCs, BLT, district level, all the way up to the board chamber, and then back and forth. So it's almost like this continuous loop of information that is occurring. And so we look at how teams are structured, are goals set, are there norms? Those are all part of our working agreements. How well collaborative teams work. Now, I would say I'm very happy with the data. I can't tell you whether 76 is good for reading overall or not, but I think I know it's better than 70. Now what I want to do is go in and look. What did we specifically do to target that growth? Because whatever it is, let's replicate it. So we want that momentum to continue. So I would love to see 6% growth a year or more. So you can see here in the snapshot report, which is good, buildings have the capability to see snapshot reports. Every building can get their own, and they do have their own reports as well. And so they're looking at this right now. They have the data, they're looking at it in their buildings, and that's how they're measuring their progress on their goals this year, but as well as what they're going to focus on for professional development and goals for next year. So again, it's another very specific data set. There's one in there I want to draw your attention to, and it's on, I think your stuff is, it might be page 123, maybe. If you look down, it's in reading, look at question number 6. That one jumps out at me a little bit. If you look at the question, basically, and I can't remember off the top of my head, let's see, it's, I got it right here. The data suggests that the core reading curriculum meets students' needs. That's probably feedback I continually get is, sometimes, not as much, and it wanes, but, these materials are too high for our kids. Our kids aren't capable of doing it, those types of things. And so we knew all along, even when the committee started its 18 months to review it, that the materials that we purchase are going to come in right now, and this is temporary, this is just where we are now. The gaps where our kids are versus where the materials come in at is what we've got to close. And until that gets closed, there's going to be that piece where it is going to be a little more heavy lifting. It is going to be a little more frustrating, but that's where we work together. We focus on instruction. The resources aren't the end-all be-all. The instruction is. And so we know when teachers say that, they're right. I understand what they're saying. So we have to then develop, how do we bridge that? And as we gain and close that gap, that we'll see less and less of that. And so that's an assumption I'm making on that data. So I will work with staff to go back and verify, is that indeed an accurate assumption? So then how then do we address it? So I just kind of gave you a little bit about how we use this tool. It is something that the TASN group through KSDE, the Technical Assistance Support Network that we partnered with, this is their survey. And we've used it, and we get feedback from them. In fact, I gave it to the director at a meeting that Dr. Dirksen and I were at just to see, hey, tell me, because my eyes are too close to it, what might you be seeing? And so we're looking at other review and feedback. What questions can I answer as far as the process or the survey or how we use it?
Just want to add a couple of things, and that is that I hope you understand we are a very large, diverse district, and we are a complicated machine, unit, organization. And there are many, many factors that element into every decision that is being made. But if we haven't proven anything tonight, if we look at the board meeting, we care about kids, and we're very organized and we're very systemic. We have a lot of structure in place. We have room to improve. We just heard from Diana. We have new students coming all the time, and they come at levels that other school districts don't receive. And we have to work with those challenges, and we have our structure in place to handle that with every student. And I would challenge anybody to get on Twitter and to look at educational organizations or comments currently, and there isn't a district in the state or nation that's not frustrated with behaviors, with student actions, with discipline. I mean, that's an ongoing issue, and we're well aware of that. And we provide surveys to teachers to give us feedback on what they want in-services to be about. We pay attention to that. And then when it comes to these things that were just presented to you, at that meeting Scott was referencing, we're being noticed by the state. The guy that leads the TASN told me that we shine above every district that he goes to. The meetings that he set up, he has 3 or 4 of them across the state that have representative districts. And we have things in place that other districts don't have, that they don't see. So we're doing some great things. And so I don't want us being disappointed, depressed, or thinking that we're the Lone Ranger. And I just want to instill hope. I want to instill confidence that we're doing many things at many levels to keep this organization the best it can possibly be. And it's not easy. That's the bottom line. So I appreciate the efforts,
And it's
Dr.
kind of
Smithson.
hard too, because I know, and I'm just, I know that the KPI group put out their letter rankings of schools, and just, here's my take on it, kind of piggyback with Dr. Dirksen. There are way more positives happening. And slow, steady growth, to me, I would love it to move faster, but it's more sustainable because that foundation's laid, the belief structure's laid. And so, that study that came out, I'm not going to sit here and say that it's inaccurate information, but I'm going to tell you, I think it's disingenuous at best. It's hard to just take a number and throw a blanket statement out there because there's way too many things that are involved in educating our youth. And behavior's one of them, and that's every district across the country that has to address this. So I always cringe when those things come out, but I said, you know what, guess what? We have the best mouthpiece possible to talk about the successes in our plan and how we're going to achieve that goal that we set. That's what we're in control of. So
thank you.
This was an informational item, and I'm more than happy at any time to pick up the phone and answer any questions you have.
Almost 30% put neutral. So is that 30% have looked at the data, or they're not aware of it? Or 30% are indifferent about, how are you guys?
I think it's all of those. Yeah, I think it's all. So when we dig into that, we're going to look at how many were paras that might not be teaching math and wouldn't know, how many weren't math teachers. So some of those questions structurally, I can work with Tazan on to break it down and say it'd be nice if it was just somebody who teaches math answered that question, because I need the data to be more pure so that we know how to respond to it. But we looked at those too. There's too many neutral. So that's partly could be just we need to communicate better.
Any other questions on this item? All right.
You can tell I like this stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for getting up, Brandon. All right, public information. Hi, Carrie.
Just a few updates with what's going on in the district. One thing, on April 19th, we're going to have an event at Redbeard, and that's for our Pathway to Teach program. We work with Newman, and we just kind of open that up. We'll be advertising that for people who are maybe interested in taking that pathway from para to teacher. So that's something we'll be doing in the public. Some of the other things that you don't see but maybe are important to you from a recruitment standpoint, when I came to you much earlier, and I'm going to think this was maybe before the start of the year, and we purchased the capability for our schools to do newsletters. We also use that framework for recruitment for teachers, and that allows Jason to send out an email blast to all of these teachers or potential teachers that he's been visiting with, where we can serve them videos, we can give them updated information, those kind of things. And he's had a very good click-through rate on that. And so I'll provide some more details to you on that so you can see the analytics, but that's been very successful also. We will be doing some digital marketing, and that will be targeted for about a 150-mile radius of Wichita, and I'm getting that finalized right now, but we'll be hitting that very hard and furious here in the next few days. So that will be happening kind of behind the scenes. Then reminder that we do have the retirement banquet. We're excited about that. We have 25 retirees that are going to be there and over 60 people planning to attend. So if you have not RSVP'd, you do have a chance to do that right away and let us know if you're going to be a part of that celebration. We look forward to that. That will be at the United Wireless Arena, and hors d'oeuvres are at 5:30 and dinner's at 6. We also are preparing for Staff Appreciation Day, and that will be taking place the first week in May. And then a reminder that graduation will take place May 21st, and as board members, you are invited and we welcome you to sit on the stage. So I'll be in touch with you about that. Any questions?
Carrie, I do hear from the building that you need that number for the retirement banquet right away.
Okay,
And
we
I
will
wanna
make
add-
that happen.
Yeah, I wanted to throw in, if I can encourage board members to try to be there, I would appreciate it. A simple fact, we've tried to amplify the value of the occasion and recognize service to the district. And for those that are retiring, if board members could be there, that would be wonderful. And so that's the 2 cents I want to throw in. Then I also wanted to add, Newman is doing a great job, but I also had a good chance to do some free advertising at Emporia State, and they're supposed to be coming out here and checking too on their teacher training program because they're very excited about the things they've heard going on at Dodge City as well. So we want to continue great relationships with Fort Hays, Wichita State, all the universities around, because recruitment is a never-ending battle. So we try to help Jason all we can.
Absolutely. Anything else? If not, okay, thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. All right, we're ready for business services.
Good evening, board members. I have just a couple of requests to bring before you tonight. The
3, actually.
Yep.
We added 1.
Yep. Couple plus 1. But only 2 of them are spending money, so. The first one is to replace the dishwasher at Comanche, and as you can see, there's a significant price difference there. We did review that to make sure that everybody was on the same page, comparing the same specs. We've never used PureZone before. They've never actually submitted a bid before, but upon reviewing, we feel like that we are comparing apples to apples. And as you can see, they're 44% lower than the next closest bid. We did do our homework, and we never used them before, so we don't, this will be our first experience with them, but we feel like it is something that we need to do. Obviously, there's a huge savings, but we want it to last as well. But based on the bid process, that is the bid that we're bringing before you for approval is the $25,207.85 from PureZone for the replacement of the dishwasher in Comanche.
Motion by Ryan and a second by Jamie. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
7-0.
The next one is to replace several cameras. It's 147 to be exact. They're coming in right around 433 apiece. About 38 of those are new in areas that we don't presently have cameras. We have blind spots, or we actually don't have cameras in the entrance to every building. We might have it on the door, but we don't have it, say, on the front office. So this will take care of all the buildings. That was a recommendation by Homeland Security. So it'll cover that as well as some additional blind spots. And then the difference is just replacing old cameras. So this is for 147 cameras for the $63,626.87.
A second.
Motion by Jamie and a second by Tammy. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
7-0.
Put you on the spot a second. You wrote in Week in Review,
What was the bid that we submitted that we got no bids on?
That was for the walk-in freezer.
So what are we gonna do?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the second time we bid that. I mean, we did replace a freezer at Sewell last summer.
I remember.
And we had to provide the electrical labor to get that wired up. So, and we had a hard time getting, I think we didn't get bids on the first one for that. So we're not done trying. We're not saying it's still working, but we're trying to stay in a rotation. So we do have to find a solution. We may have to throw a wider net and reach out farther than what we've done. You know, somebody somewhere makes freezers. So
That just amazed me that here we are wanting to spend money and we can't get vendors.
it's getting tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Well,
the next thing.
I think I mentioned, we thought we were ahead of the curve on the HVAC units. And we ordered those for summer delivery and we're just being told that it'll be October. So that'll change our installation schedule. So we're actually trying to be ahead of the game.
I get that, and I appreciate that.
No, that's fine. It's fair question. Well, that's a whole different commercial, you know, yeah. I mean, it's the same business, but obviously it's a much smaller scale, although I don't have a bit of problem reaching out. I mean, most of those are custom made, not a slide into place kind of a deal though, so. Well, yeah, a lot of good-sized restaurants will use a makeshift refrigerator freezer, so it's not like we're asking for something that doesn't exist or new technology. So I am not sure. Some of it's labor and some of it is parts, but we're not done trying. I just don't have a solution today.
And again, I'm sorry to put you on the.
Oh, no, that's
I
fine.
thought that
That's a
was
fair question.
related, so.
I don't have a bit of problem with it. And last, this is what we had to amend the agenda for, is to actually receive some funds. Just became aware of this today, and it's an opportunity. I believe the funds have to be dispersed this week. I'm not sure on the date, but it's definitely before we meet again. So that's why we wanted to get it on the agenda. But we're asking you to receive a contribution for $9,999.99. I'm guessing that gets you under a cap somewhere, to be used for the purpose of the obstacle course at the high school. So we would just put that in gifts and grants until the rest of the fundraising is done, and then take that money out for the obstacle course when it's ready.
Amber,
So
what's the dollar amount on the obstacle course? I don't recall. Do you have an idea?
I want to say it was 50, 60, something like that. The nice thing about that is that was as designed, but it had several parts and pieces, so it could be customized and you could start small and grow. So if they don't reach that goal, they'll start with something. But that was the plan as they presented it to us.
This money comes from the Air Force?
Yes, that's correct.
I'll second that.
Motion by Ryan and a second by Jeff. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Is that an aye, Tracy? I think I lost her. Tracy? Okay, thank you. 7-0. Okay, we are ready for Board of Education member district responsibilities. Park and Rec Advisory Board, Jared or Ryan, do we have? Nope, okay. Bright Beginnings, Head Start, Jamie?
That's the big thing. The review with one monitor went really well for the week that we did it.
Very good.
Good, thank you.
Thanks, AC. Okay, special education.
Tomorrow we have our monthly meeting. I don't usually like these things back to back. But we'll meet at Rise because this building is full and being used. We'll meet at the new RISE facility, which will be good for the board. But right now, we're dealing with staffing, budgeting, and the use of paras. So that's, those are the issues that we will deal with tomorrow.
Ryan, anything on the legislative?
Fred's closer to it than I am.
Just a few items and then maybe a couple of add-ons, but the legislature recessed this session and they failed to pass the K-12 budget before adjournment. And the reason it failed to pass is actually tried to put a whole lot of things together into one bill, and several of the policy items got bound up and couldn't get both sides to agree, and so it did not pass. We're very concerned about that because the K-12 budget obviously is involved in this bill, and we want to make sure that we know our financing for next year. There were different bills that were involved in the compilation. One of the more controversial ones was the bill that would require school districts to allow non-resident students to enroll and attend any district. Argument is that the decision should be made by districts themselves, not being told by the legislature that you have to take that student. Just the different complications that could cause across the state. Another controversial proposal was one that would have established a virtual math program that would be paid by federal COVID dollars the first year, but then be charged to districts the second year. And as we talked about math results before this, obviously we would be impacted by this probably in a large way, so it's something we definitely want to pay attention to. Then there also was something called a Kansas Promise Scholarship, which different legislators are trying to support, but it would involve using Kansas tax dollars to provide scholarships to people even from out of state. And some people obviously had a problem with that. So those are some important issues that are going on. There's also legislative issues that impact our activities. There's a bill that would allow, let me see here, original encompass regulations impacting homeschool eligibility. That's a big controversy across the state, requiring you to accept homeschool students into your activities. So far, that bill hasn't made it out to be voted on, but it is being talked about, thrown around, something definitely don't support. Let me see. There are some good bills, but those haven't made it to the floor to be voted on. Bills involving making sure that we have policies and management in place for concussion and concussion protocol. We're very lucky in our district to have the athletic trainer care that we have for each and every of our athletes in all sports, but other schools aren't so lucky, and so they're trying to have those provisions. There's also a bill that would create a crime of abuse of sports officials, trying to put a stop to that, and we can't even get a bill to be passed for that. So I hope that our administrators do a good job of that, and I hope that across the state we can put a stop to parents thinking that they can control the game and the officials. Definitely think that's gone above and beyond what should be happening. So anyway, there's just a multitude of bills. I have been told that it is a good thing that this was held up, because if we can separate the funding from the policy, maybe we can get the funding and not the policy. So I'm hoping that that's the way this works in an ideal world. I do want to share with you that it was an honor for me when I took Jackie Feist to the award program at Emporia. Dale Dennis called me and asked if I would get a hold of some legislators to try to ask for an increase in funding for special ed, because they're yet to meet the statutory requirement of what the state is supposed to provide. And by not providing that, we have to take more money out of general fund to meet that
amount. First of all, I was honored that Dale would call me and ask me to get a hold of a legislator, and actually asked me to call the governor's office, which I did. I got a hold of press secretary that I work with on the governor's council, and I fulfilled that. And then I just want to put a plug in for our representatives. They've been very supportive of public education. They've been very supportive of local control. And so a shout out to Senator Reichman and to Boyd Orr and to Brad Ralph, because they've been on target and on point for public education. So I think that's worth everyone knowing, and definitely appreciate their care and concern for Southwest Kansas.
I did see Brad Ralph last week, and he had wanted to come tonight to report to our board, but wasn't able to get back from Topeka, so. Okay. But yeah,
Well, I agree with you. We'll welcome him anytime. He doesn't have to have an invite. He's a standing invitation. So anyway, but there's still a lot to go through on that. Received another call from a legislator that her name escapes me now, but she made an open invitation to the legislature before they left on this break, and wanted to know if I would volunteer to allow senators and representatives to tour our school. I don't know that anyone's called. I made Carrie the contact point, but with open arms, I said, it doesn't even have to be from this district. I encourage people, because I believe metropolitan Kansas needs to see western Kansas and understand that there are differences. So I strongly encourage that.
good. All right. Capital outlay. Calendar committee has not met yet. We've got Jared, you're scheduled to review the district bills prior to the May meeting. Announcements, we've got April 15th and 18th will be no school for Good Friday and Easter break. April 21st is the retirement banquet at the conference center, beginning at 5:30. Board members, please let Carrie or Karen know tonight, because we do need those numbers. April 25th, Board of Education lunch meeting at Sewell at noon. May 9th, Board of Education meeting here at the district office at 6 o'clock. May 21st, Dodge City High School commencement at United Wireless Arena at 10:30 in the morning. And we will not have a second board meeting in May. Are there items for future board meetings or additional information we'd like to see? Okay, we need a couple executive sessions. The first one, we're doing negotiations first. Discussion and negotiations we need, how long for that, Dr. Dirksen?
Okay, we'll have two distinct executive sessions. The first one will be negotiations. I would ask that the negotiation team of Clayton Curbs, Jason Scheck, Matt Turner, and Tammy Nedler, and I would ask for 15 minutes. That will be followed by personnel matters of non-elected personnel, and in that one, Clayton and I can handle it. So and Hammer is also included in the negotiations. I'm sorry about that.
Did you say 15 minutes?
15 minutes for negotiations, 10 minutes for personnel.
Okay. All right, we need a motion for the negotiation board executive session.
I'll make that motion.
All right. We've got a motion by Jeff and a second by Jared. All in favor? Aye. 7-0. When we come out of that, then we'll make